Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel, Mavericks Arcade. My name is Chuck, and today we're going to be talking about actually wiring your control panel. Now, I've already shown you in previous videos how to mount the joysticks, how to mount the trackball, and how to mount the buttons. So we're not going to cover that here. We're just covering how to wire everything up. Now, I have the Ultimark I-PAC IO board, Ultimate IO board, and I ordered it with the wiring harness. I definitely recommend you do that. Now, one thing about this wiring harness is some of the wires are a little too short for some of my connections. So, Ultimark does offer this extension pack, which you can replace some of the wires in this harness with the longer wires. So you can see you get a pretty good amount of extra distance out of that harness. So I'm going to show you how to do that and how to wire these things up. So let me first switch over to a view so you can see my panel that I've currently got configured. And that's this camera here. So as you can see, we have the Ultimark IO board here. And then I have a bunch of these little hooks throughout the board so that I can route wires and so forth. I also have some Velcro screwed in 3 locations so that I'll be able to have some wire management happening. Now, one thing you may also notice is, why is there a network cable on the middle of my board plugging into the high power adapters on the controller? And that is because I do not have a cabinet LED controller and or button controller just for the cabinet. Normally, you would see if somebody has cabinet lights and everything like that, they may have a controller dedicated for that purpose. However, I want to have all the buttons, all the lights, and everything interact with the same LED Blinky, so I am using just this board. But to make it easy to remove this control panel and put it back and take it off and put it back and so forth for testing parts, I am using RJ45 ends, and inside my cabinet I have RJ45 jacks and wall plates with, and as you can see here, I have a piece of red duct tape. And on my switches on the inside of the cabinet, I have a little red indicator for this wire. I am also using orange, white, tan, blue, and yellow, and green. So that way I can easily mount the board, screw it back in, and then just plug in all these wires, and everything is reconnected. So if you see these cables, that's what that's all about. Now, as you can see here, I have a lot of switches and ground effects and other things on my board. So you can see I've got a bunch of these cables ready to go. Now, the only things that I've already wired on these cables are the LED connections, like this. So I've spliced the LED wire, and I put a network cable in place. Now these here, these extra wires floating, those are what we're going to be using for the signals for actual button presses. Now, that can get very confusing. So what I've done to as I've been going is I've made sure to document exactly what goes where. So as you can see from this document here, let me see which way I need to get out of the way. This way. So what you can see is up in this section, you can see I have the color of the cable defined. This is a blue cable with a tan tape on it. And you can see the red, green, blue, brown pattern of the wires, and I'm documenting which each of those signals are being used for. So that will help me stay consistent throughout my wiring on both ends of the cabinet and the control board. So as you can see, we have the blue wire with the red tape. And let's see what that indicates. Blue cable, red tape. These are for my marquee lights. As you can see, I'm not using the brown and the brown-white pair, and the reason why I'm not is because that power is coming from the computer cabinet, so the power is already in there. So the only signal that's needing to traverse the cable is the RGB for the left and the right marquee, and that is the reason why they are plugged into these high-power connections on the board. And let me pull the board up so you can see that. I had to find my mouse cursor, sorry about that. So let's hide the Excel for a minute. You can see that's why these are plugged in right here and here. So that's the reason why I'm using that document. You can see I've got it printed out, so as we go, I'll be able to refer to it very easily. Another thing that I'm always doing when I'm working with this board is I'm using a large printout of the controller board. This will make it very easy for me to find which connection is which and to keep moving quickly. Now we're also going to connect this board up. Actually, we can do that when we're done. Now, the one thing is, you can see I've got these two joystick wires here. I'm leaving those disconnected until we're near the end because, unlike the rest of the wires, which I want to try to secure down as much as possible and keep the board contained, these wires need to move freely. And the reason why is that when this joystick moves, I need that wire not to be hampered in any way, shape, or form. So we're going to leave that one kind of floating out in the all by itself there. And of course, as I am building, I need to document exactly which buttons are being assigned to what and which LEDs they're using. So again, we'll go back to my Excel, and this is a different document. And what this document consists of, it has what the input, and the input means what's labeled on the board itself. And then custom names. So this would be where I have things like my plunger, things like that defined. And then we have preset codes. This is the way it comes configured from Ultimark. And if there's preset shift codes, this is where it will show as in this column. And then my code, this is what I've configured it to be. And this is where that will show up. And then the wire color, this will be the color of the control cable being used from the wiring harness from Ultimark. And again, this is just so that when I'm going back, I can easily find things on my board. And then the last is the LED number. This is going to be where it's going to be plugged into the LEDs on the I-PAC board, so that while programming, I can easily reference that without having to look at the back of the board every time. So again, I highly recommend you document as you go. It just makes your life a little bit easier. So again, got little hooks, we got a little Velcro to be ready for the cables. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, I guess, let's hook up the joysticks first. So, looking at my wiring, well, actually the very first thing we want to do when wiring this thing is hook up that ground wire. And this is the wire that goes around all the controls, and it's a common wire. So let me grab that from my box right here. It's a little bit tangled in here. Now I got to find out which one is the long one. This definitely looks to be the long cable. Now, just so that all the wires are in place, another thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to plug in the LEDs for the coin in, or the coin start, player start buttons. So, actually, we have a couple things we got to do first. So we're going to put in these switches here and pop that in there. And again, we're going to get the LED wires out of the way for now. We'll deal with the LEDs after we have the majority of the switches plugged in. And the network cables will probably do last too. Well, that one's not in tight at all. Getting little man's facing up there. Get that a little bit tighter. Let's pop that in. Oh, he doesn't want to go in there. Let's try it this way. That's happier. Now let's make sure he's straight. And now we'll tighten down the switch the rest of the way. Alright, so he's in there pretty tight. And now we got this last one in here. Pop. So now all of those are wired. And they all have switches. So now we're going to go back to all these little switches over here. And we're going to plug those in. And again, I got to make sure that the large sides where this cable routes through is on this little hole. You can't see it there, but you'll see it when I get to the other side. So I'm just putting switches in all these player switch buttons so that we can wire them up. Nope, I wired it the wrong way. Or I tried to tighten it the wrong way. Alright. So again, you want to start with the low side first. I was trying to do it the other direction. So got that popped in. And now let me get more switches. And again, I start on the low side. Make sure that my LED cable is routing out the correct way. All we're doing right now is popping all these little switches on so that they're ready to be wired. We got the low side. Hook the bottom on first. Put the top on second. Now you can also see the way I'm wiring these, they're all uniform. Now when I first wired my first control panel, the ends of the jacks would all like intersect each other. It made it very difficult to try to put all the wires in the correct places because they were running into each other. So this time I realized I need to make sure to have them all so that the switch ends are pointing out from the center. So it'll make everything easier to reach. You know, it's just one of those silly things I didn't think about when I was first doing it. And now that I've been through it once, I'm like, oh, this is kind of difficult if I don't think about this ahead of time. So now you can see over here where on this side, it's going to be a little easier for you to see. I just don't want to be moving the camera the whole time. So as you can see, I put the front down and then I pop the back in. And the core, these are facing the outside. So all the wiring will go from the outer perimeter instead of trying to run wires in between the switches, which, like I said, I've done that before. That is a pain. You don't want to do that. I want to make sure everything is as reachable as possible. Not only will it make it easier to wire, if you have to replace any switches, it makes it a lot easier to replace. Now we're going to put this one in there. And again, as you can see, on these classic RGB switches, you got to have the wire hanging on the larger side and against, there's a little notch for it to slide into. You want to make sure to be using that to give yourself room. And again, over here, you got this switch. So, one more to go. And then that's our bottom side. There we go. So now all of our buttons and or switches have switches. All of our buttons have switches. So now we can run this black common wire. Now, let me get it untangled fully. Now on one of the sides of this wire, it's going to have just a little piece like this. It's just a little tab. That's all it is, just a little tab. And where that will go, again, I gotta make sure I got room here, is on your wiring harness. Let me get this LED out of the way. On your large wiring harness, the only black cable that's present has this end. All you do is you plug those together. And now this common wire is getting its ground. So there's a little white spot here on the wiring harness that's going to go in the spot where the only pin is missing. And we push that down firmly but gently too. We don't want to go all the way in yet. Be very careful not to rip anything on this board. But we want to approximate where it will be so we're not over tightening things. And then we need to decide what the route is that we want to take with this black cable. Now I'm thinking what I'll probably want to do is just go around the top of my switches first, then go down around here and around here. Or actually, it would be more efficient if because the thing is, if I go this way, then all of this part with the trackball is being wasted. And I have a limited number of ends. Now in my case, because most of my buttons are on the control panel, I don't have to really worry about it, but just have the mentality that you don't want to skip too many of these. So let's say if this was mounted here, then my first good position for mounting or connecting one of these grounds would be here. And again, it's going to look like it's the outermost connector is the one you want to jump into. So we're going to then go to this next outermost connector. And again, the next outermost connector. And so on and so forth. We're going to continue this on. And then over here, these switches, it will appear to be the top is what the correct connection will be. So we put that on. Again, as you can see, because of this time I am being a little more careful with how I'm wiring things. I'm not wasting as much space. It's a little easier to put these on. Again, last time it was a nightmare because I had to, all my switches weren't oriented in a specific way. So it was a pain. So now I'm going over to this one. And then I'm going again under the LED cables. I don't want to get too tangled up with all those. And then I'm going to the next switch on the top row. And then again, the next switch. And I've been lucky so far I haven't had to skip one of these connectors. And again, because I'm trying not to waste my connections. So now that one's already there. So now here's an instance where it's the first time I'm about to waste. Now this would be really tight. Instead of having it be tight, I'd rather just go through one of my loops and hook to this top one. Now there's nothing special about this wire too. You could make one if you need to. Now see, this is just a little tight or a little much. I don't want to make things too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and opt to skip one and jump it over. I'll probably have to do the same. Nope, this one will reach, and it's not going to be too tight, I don't believe, to connect it right there. It's not too tight. However, there's going to be a lot of wires going through there that might snag it, and I'd rather just, because I know for a fact I'm not going to run out of these ends, I'm just going to waste another one. If I was going to be a little more tight on the amount of connections I needed, then I'd be a little more concerned. So, but I'm not. So I'm just going to go ahead and wire things as much as I can. I'm going to use this top one. We're then going to go down to the switch on this row. Let me get these LED wires out of the way. Get that one plugged in. This top one. This top one. And so on. As you can see, this is just extremely fun right now. All right, so then I've got this connector here, and I've got next one on my joystick is right here. And then we're going underneath down to this one. And then we're going over this very last one. Now, one thing to note, I only have 2 little jacks left over. So it ended up actually being a little more tight than I expected it was going to be. But that's fine. What we're going to do next is, yep, and that'll fit perfectly when that's jacked into place. So on my cabinet lights and everything like that, I need to extend this ground over to that cabinet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at my board here, or my RJ45 list, and I'm going to look for where I had that ground, and that will be the next wire that I'll manage. So it was the one that I'm using for flippers is the one that will have the ground. So that's the blue cable with the tan tape. So the blue cable with the tan tape is this one. Now this has got, on my sheet I can see that this is for the flippers, and let me flip over to the Excel so you can see it. And what I'm talking about is this right here. Let me see, blue cable, orange tape, nope. Missing it. Where's my flippers? There it is. So as you can see here, the red, the green, the blue, and the brown are for my LEDs. And they're the ones that are already being moved over to this LED connection. But then I have these 3 white cables and they're out. I've got a blue white, a green white, and an orange white. And you can see the orange white is for the left flipper signal. The green white is for the right flipper signal. But the blue white is for my ground. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to want that to plug into the end of, let me hide the Excel. I'm going to want that to plug into the end of this wire. So what I'm going to do is verify again, blue, white. Definitely one of those areas where we do not want to accidentally mix up our cables and send power down the wrong avenue. So I have little ends right there, but I am looking specifically for one moment. There is a connector specifically that I'm looking for right there. Right here it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that connector and I'm going to bend the wire once so it'll fit nice and easy. And you'll notice in my videos I use my teeth way more than I should for anything. And if you are a dentist, I apologize. Really, not really. All right, so problem is the one that I've got here is it's just too large. This connector is just too large. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect this wire to the end. I'll connect it to the end like this. Actually, I think what I'll do is I'll seal that up too. Make it a little bit longer. A little bit longer now, and then what I'll do is I'll take one of these shrink tubes. So we'll make it a lot bigger. On my scissors. See, these are the other things that I should have verified I had readily available before my broadcast started. Oh, and that one is just a little messier than normal around here. All right, so I'm going to put this on this cable. Those are my other signal cables. So then I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to go through there. I'm going to loop it around. And I'm going to go back through the top part of this. I'm basically just tying it off to the wire, the parts that are already there, to make sure that it does not come loose in any way, shape, or form anyway. And it's not coming loose at all. So then I'm going to open, let's see if I can get this rubber shrink wrap to fit over it. Again, I don't want any exposed wires, especially ones that are carrying power, near anything else. So I got the shrink on there. So the thing is, if I need to remove this later, I haven't damaged any wire, and that's the reason why I'm doing it this way. This, I've got it looped around, I've got it knotted. It is not, it's not coming off on accident anyway. I could easily purposely remove that and we'd be good to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over to the side now because I'm going to worry about the rest of the flipper wires later. I want to make sure all my primary controls are mapped to the actual places on the buttons. Plungers and flippers and things like that, those are additional controls that I'm doing on my own that are not part of the rest of this setup. So I want to make sure all the ones that have default mappings, I map correctly to Ultimark's spec just for consistency's sake. So let me go back over to my programming Excel. Again, I don't need to show this part to you yet, but so what it's saying is we've got coin 1. Now I've labeled on the board here 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the controls from Ultimark. Now these are the player start buttons. My coin buttons are part of the cabinet buttons that will be the RJ45s that are coming in later. I first want to take care of the controls that are on the board. So let's first do switch 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for player 1. Now all the player 1 buttons are on this side. So let's look and go down to what switch 1 is over here. So I can see on my board, and one thing to note also is that the wires seem to be in groupings. So when I'm looking at my sheet here, I see that switch 1, switch 2, switch 3, and switch 4 start at the other end of this wire. So down here, they're starting over here. So this grouping, there's also one up, one down, one left, one right. Switch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are the only buttons we're using over on this side. But you can see where, when this is jacked into place, these they will be able to reach the buttons, but they will not be able to reach the joystick. So let's look at what the first buttons are for up, down, left, and right. Well, down here, up, down, left, and right is gray, purple, blue, and green. Again, gray, purple, blue, and green. And what I would recommend is when you're doing the extension wires, that you make sure to keep the colors consistent. This will make it, again, easier for you to keep things organized. And that's what I find really important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully cut the zip tie that comes on these extension cables already. Carefully cut that off. And on the other side, I'm going to carefully cut that off. Now, so here, these have already been wired for the player 3 and 4, so that is a set that I did not need to snip. Goody. This is the one where I did not put the ends on it yet. So let's put that over there. All right, so back to what I was attempting to do, and that is purple, gray, what did I say? Purple, gray, green, and blue. Green and blue. So here's my extension cables. What I'm going to do is one by one, I'm going to replace these wires. I don't want to go too fast. And before I actually remove any, I'm going to verify that those are in fact the wires that I need, which are these last 4, which are gray, purple, green, and blue. So the first one looks like it would be the purple wire. So we're going to take the purple wire and we're going to look at it. And on the side there is a part where if you look at the wire, there's a part that's protruding up from the wire, and there's like a little piece of metal thing there. Now that's the piece of metal that will catch in the switch or in the little block. Now you want to be really careful here. If you pull too hard, you'll break the clasp. The wire won't stay in position very easily. So very carefully, if you're looking at the top of your switch, you can see there's a little piece of plastic there. And that little piece of plastic is what is grabbing on to the piece of metal on the actual wire. So very carefully, using a very tiny screwdriver, we want to lift that, push it down just to get underneath that black part, just enough to pull the switch out or pull the wire out. Again, a little tedious, but just be careful. We don't want to break this harness. So as I lifted that, the purple wire came out. We're now going to take the shorter purple wire, put it to the side. You don't know, we might need it later. We're going to grab our purple wire, the extended one, and we're going to make sure that the part that is higher is up on the top side. We're going to slide this in place of the old one and make sure that it locks, and it does. So next we're going to move to our green wire. Doing the same thing, being very careful when lifting that black piece. And the wire comes almost all the way out. I got lifted again. Come on. And now it comes out, the green wire comes out. And again, we're saving it with the rest. We're taking our extended green cable. We're sliding that into place. Hearing it click and making sure that it locks, and it did. So now we have two extended wires, and we're going to go for the gray one next. We're going to flip it over the bracket, and it's the exact same process on the other side. Very carefully lift up that black tab without breaking anything else. It's that last part that's the hard part. Just don't break anything. Like, sure, I won't break anything, but I get it out of there. Got it out. So there's the gray one. We'll save that. Here's our other gray longer wire. We'll slide that in place of the old one. Hear it click. And then the last one we're extending this time is the blue wire. We push it forward to expose it, lift it, pull it. There's the blue wire. Getting a little faster at it as I get used to it, but don't get complacent. You don't want to break it. You hear it click, and now it's in place. So now, as you can see, I got 4 wires that are much longer than the others. So these 4 wires and the other wires for the buttons are now ready to be done. So we're going to put this approximately in position. Again, we're not going to push it all the way down. We're just going to make sure that it's touching all the pins so their distances are correct. And then we're again going to look. These are our joystick buttons. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our directional controls. And I'm going to try to go underneath all of these wires so that it's a direct path and it's less likely to get tangled going forward. So I'm going to put these in position roughly there, and these wires are going underneath, and we're going to look at the board. So my left switch is the purple. So first thing I'm going to do is over here on my board or on my Excel document, you can see I have one right and I have a color option here. So the right is the gray cord. So I'm going to put gray over here. And then I guess it's gray that way. I'm not sure. Never gotten a 100% answer on that. So left is the purple wire. So again, I'm documenting as I go, purple. And the up is supposed to be the blue wire. And the last color is green for the down. Green for down. So then when we got our cables over here, because we've documented it and we have it on our screen, it's very easy to see. Now I've already labeled what should be these buttons. So when I hit up, you can see that this switch over here is being activated. So I've labeled up. Oh, get my Excel out of the way. So again, I have left, I labeled on the board, and when you push the switch up, you can see that it's activating this switch here. So I've labeled it as up. So my purple cable is supposed to be left, which should be this middle button on the switch here. And then the next cable is this gray one, and gray should be my right. And I have right way over here. Now that can't go all the way around nice and pretty. It's going to have to go up under here. But again, with the extension cables, it reaches pretty easily. It's just I can't go follow the other path that I wanted to. But in either case, plugged in right there. And then we have the green cable, which is the down. So I'm looking for where down is. Down is supposed to be up here. Now this one I should be able to go in here and come up through here. A little bit nicer. There's my down button. And then the last one on this to be wired is my blue wire. And blue is supposed to be my up button, which is on this far side. We're going to go up underneath the existing wiring again so that we can keep things from getting tangled in the future. And reconnect into there. Now supposedly, my joystick for player 1 is now complete. The only other thing we're going to need to wire for that will be the USB for the servo motors, which will basically just be a USB cable going up through the middle so it can reach the hub inside my cabinet currently. So those wires in place. Now let's look at the players 1, 2, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 player 1 buttons. So again, assuming that this is pushed down, then the next wires to be used would be the next 4 wires, and then in the next set, the first 2 wires. And what you'll notice too is that the wiring patterns will begin to repeat. So in each of the blocks, you can see they're separated by 2 empty holes. That wiring color pattern repeats. So in this case, player 6 is purple, and the switch button for 5 is gray. So we're going back over to our Excel document, and we're going down to switch 1, and it looks like switch 1 is after the green, and that is yellow. So we're going to put in here yellow. And then switch 2 is on this side, and that is orange. So we're going to put over here orange. And then switch 3 is going to be near the back of that block. And it looks like, let me make sure I'm untangled. I want to be tangled. It looks like that's red, and then the next one will be brown. So red, brown. Then switch 5 is on that side. That means it's gray, and then purple. So gray, then purple. So now that we have that easily seen there, let's go back to our board. And we're going to grab we can grab all of these wires now and get them to the approximate location. And again, I'm going to go underneath the rest of all this wire that's already here, just so it's a little more direct. And then we have, so for my first button, it's going to be yellow. Pop that in right there. And again, verifying that if this was pressed down, it would reach. So we got yellow there. And I want to go under my LEDs. So we'll put that back on top. And then the button 2 would be orange, which this is my button 2. And then button 3 will be red, which will be my button 3 right here. And now button 4 should be brown. This is going to be a long reach. Let's see how we do. Nice. Just barely gets it, but it does. I don't need to waste an extension. Like, I don't want to use all my extensions up because I'm not sure how I'm going to look on the other side. So I don't want to use them all up yet. Gray is right here. Now you could say, hey, yeah, but you can always order more extensions. That's true, but I'd rather just get it all wired and be all good. So purple should be my button 6, and it is. So now it's my button 6. So now, The signaling cables for the joystick and for the buttons are done on this side. So now we're going to do and move and do the exact same thing on the other side. So to begin that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at our wiring patterns here. Now again, notice I said that the coloring patterns repeat in each of these blocks. Each of these blocks, the coloring repeats. So we had one right, one left. Means 2 right and 2 left should be using the same colors in the harness. Should be. Let's confirm. So, in the third set from the end where I've already started, and we'll visually look on the board to make sure that's correct, that yes, lo and behold, 1 right or 2 right is gray. 2 left is purple. So we are repeating the exact same color pattern that we've already used. So on my Excel document, I'm simply going to grab those colors and move them down, copying and pasting them. So I'm going to copy those. I'm going to come down to the first one is 2 right. And that should be switch 6 will be purple as well when we're done, because it's gonna cross over to the next row just like we did on the other setup. So what we want to do is we want to look and see how we're doing on space. So I'm going to separate out the wires for that section. So this section of wires that I've got right here in my hand are all player 2 wires, and then 2 additional wires from our switches 5 and 6. And those are here. So now let's see. So it looks like this time we're going to have no problems reaching our joystick. But we may have issues just barely short reaching players 5 and 6, or players 3 and 6. Let's see if this was pushed down imaginarily. It looks like I'll be able to... switch 4 or switch 2 is fine, and switch 4, I don't like where it's going, because as you can see it's crossing the path of the joystick, and I want them to be free and clear. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to leave switch 1, 2, and 3 actually is okay, but I'm going to extend buttons 4, 5, and 6. So to extend those, what colors are we going to need? It looks like brown, gray, and purple are the colors we're going to need to extend. So let's look at our extension pack and let's see what colors I have left. Again, if you need to order extra wiring harnesses just to make sure your colors stay consistent, I would recommend doing that. Again, I'm just a big fan of having everything be the correct colors and coordinated and everything look right. So looking at this harness, it does look like I have, oh, this is the other extension harness. Where's the one that I've already opened? Where's the one that I already opened? All these wires. They're the same length, I think it is. The only problem when you get all these wires everywhere is it's hard to keep them straight. Okay, yeah. So I've got another whole pack that I haven't opened up yet. But over here, let's see. What do I have? What do I have? All the wires from my other setup. Okay, so that's the thing, is I do not have extra wires for, I have brown, but I do not have an extra gray and blue. For the sake of consistency, I am going to open up this other wiring pack. I'll just have to get a couple more to do it right if I need to do any other wiring. So the wires that we wanted were again brown, which I was able to retrieve. So I have a brown one and a gray and a purple. So let's see here. We've got brown, gray, and purple, and these will be for the buttons, not for the joystick this time. So looking at my wiring harness, I'm going to pull this up. This middle section here is the one we're talking about, and then these two wires right on this bracket. So it looks like the brown's on the other side, so I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to look for that specific brown cable, which is right here. And I'm going to look for my little baby screwdriver. Right here. I'll push that in. We'll lift this up. Again, very careful. Pull that out. That's my old brown one. And I'm going to grab the long brown one from here. And on the back side. For a minute there, I was like, where'd it go? So then we're going to push the brown one in there. And now that we're on this side anyway, let's go ahead and pull out the purple. And being very careful. Purple's out. Purple goes away. And the big purple comes in. Yeah, this board gets flipped over. There's the purple. That's locked in. And now we have a gray one on the other side. We're going to pop that out. Oh, come on. This one's not being as cooperative. There we go. So we're going to put the gray one in. And we're going to look at our wiring again. We're going to separate the wires out to where they need to be. So, imagining again that this is in place right there. We have a long gray wire. We have the long purple wire. And actually, let's put the purple or run the gray through the hole so it's on the same side as our brown, gray, and purple. And we're imagining in that it's in place. And we're now with all this extra wires, we can come down. And we're looking at our wiring pattern. These are the extended wires. So button 4 should be brown. So I go to my button 4. I'm going to run this between the joystick here. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. So that one is now plugged in. And then our next button is gray, which is button 5. See, you can definitely see why keeping the color coding consistent is easier, especially if I'm going to go back later and redo some of these switches. This color coding being consistent and being documented will just make any sort of repair or anything like that worlds easier. So we now got those buttons wired up. Now we got to do the first couple buttons. And again, we're looking at that. We're looking at the section here where it has, so what we're looking for on my sheet here, according to this, is switch 1, 2, and 3 should be yellow, orange, and red around the area of the 2-player buttons. Again, colors are awesome. So we have two players, button 1, yellow, red 3, and orange is 2. I'm confirming, looking at my sheet, yellow is, in fact, my which one? So yellow is here. And then the next one is orange. Should be switch 2. And then red, which barely fits, but does, is that one. It'll be a little bit tight, but it's all right. It's on there, it's correct. So now all of our buttons over here are fully wired. So the last thing on this side to do is to wire up our joystick. So on our joystick, in the section of the player 2 switches, we are looking for gray, purple, blue, and green. So again, right here around where the player 2 switches are, we have gray, purple, blue, and green. Now I'm going to send this blue cable up under here so that they stay pretty well grouped together. So there's all my wires for the joystick, and I'm verifying that they're all coming from the player 2 section / area, and that is correct. Now I could look at the wiring code again, or I can just copy what I've already done on this other joystick. So that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, anyway, let's see. So we have 2 right should be gray. And I look at my pattern here. Where do I have right? Right is up here. And then I look at my pattern again. And what is next? Purple is left. So left appears to be down here. And then I look at my pattern and it looks like blue is up, which is saying it's right here. And green is supposed to be down, which is right there. All right. So then the last thing on the board that needs to be wired before we start doing the RJ45s is going to be the coin 1, 2, 3, and 4. Or not the coin, but the start. So I've skipped ahead a little bit, and what I've done is I've went ahead and finished wiring all the connections for the LAN cables that I set up. What we're doing next is the LEDs. So what I'm going to do is this time I'm going to do it a little more organized than I did last time. And I think what I'm going to do first is, well, first let me put those wires there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the last buttons on either side. And again, we're going to update Excel as we go. So let me open up my show the Excel here. And we're going to move it over to the side so that we can see both at the same time. And let me put the Excel behind that top-down camera. So, well, let me move this in just a little bit so you can see the text that I'm adding. All right, this is good. So, button number 6. And again, you want to look on the board to see where the symbols are for what you're supposed to be plugging in. And we're going to put button 6 in 46. And I will then go into my Excel document to where this is button 2, number 6, will then be in 46. And then button 5 will have in 43. Type 43. And then button 4, which is this wire, it will have in number 40. And I'll document that. And then button 3 will go on pin 37. And I'll document that. Button 2 will go on to pin number 34. And we'll document that. And then lastly, button 1 will go on to pin number 31. And now what we're going to do is we're going to change to the joystick 2. Again, we want to make sure it stays free of these cables. We'll go into number 28. So let me update my pins over here. It's 28, 28, 28, 28. Now I'm looking at the bottom. Let me plug in the USB or the LED power cable into the board. What I should see, they're not initializing because the board's already been loaded. So anyway, we've got all those buttons, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to go in our Excel document to where our player 1 buttons are, starting with player 6. And we're going to look for button 6, which is over here. And that is going to get pin 94. And we're going to update that, 94. And then button 5. Button 5 is going to get 91. And button 4 is going to get 88. Button 3, it's a little repetitive. Again, you can fast forward if you need to. Going to get 85. And then button 2 is going to get 82. Oh, and all of these are backwards. Keep these in order. Flip it. Oops, let me just do it again to make sure I got it right. Button 6, button 5, button 4, again, you got to be mindful of those indicators on the board. So that's what I missed. Then button 3, button 2, and then button 1. And then again, now that I've gotten those out of the way, do my joystick. So we've got all these situated. I want the joystick buttons out. I do have all the LEDs for these wires together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little Velcro here. And I'm going to begin my wire management by putting all these into a nice Velcro strap. Again, making sure to keep the joystick LED wires separate and free. And again, I'm not worried about making them too tight or anything like that. I just want them to stay together. So I'm not too worried about it. Just loose organization here. Same thing on the other side. I'll grab those cables. And I'm going to hook them up here. Nice and loose. Just to keep them together and organized. So those are all now connected. And they are documented over here. What I'm going to do though is switch 2 is plugged into the 82, and then switch 1 is plugged into 79, and then joystick 1 is going to be plugged into 76. So I have to multiply or multiple edit here. 76, 76, 76, 76. So now we have these defined. We're now going down to the very bottom where we have our trackball. We're going to put our trackball on 73. Make sure up here we have 76 as our joystick. Yeah, so 73 will be our trackball. So let's install that LED now. And to do that, we grab the trackball box, which is not there. Trackball box over here. So we got that, and we've got our controller. So we're going to take our little LED, take this off of here. We're going to, now we can also push down the wiring harness into place, and it's now on there firmly. Putting our LEDs in place. We're getting our little screwdriver, and we're going to mount the LEDs on here. So it's on there nice and tight. Again, we're going to take the LED thing and plug that into the board. But then we're also going to look for our the pin on here for power, I believe. That should be correct. Now, before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and just load up LED Blinky and make sure we're getting the responses where we expect them to be. Let's go into LED Blinky and just load up my config file or config program. And we're going to go to input map. And we're going to check we were on pin. Now, if everything is working correctly, then according to this, pin 96. Powered in. Oh, yeah, it is. All right, so I was looking at the wrong side. So I can see my buttons are lighting up under here. They are all lighting up the correct colors. My joystick. Now, we have a large gap because we are on 96. Let's go down to... Oh. We had the joystick light up. And the joystick lit up at pins 76. So then the trackball is supposed to be at 72 or 73, 74, and 75, but it's not lighting up, which means I've got this ground on the wrong spot. It has to be on the one that says G right there. So now you can see the trackball LED is lighting up, and oh, that looks beautiful. So we are on target. We're doing good. Let's keep going. So, oh, and let's just check down at 46, the other button should begin. And they are lighting up correctly. So we're doing good. Everything's looking correct. That takes care of those lights. So let's do the other onboard lights first. Again, those are going to be our first priority in anything. So what we'll do is we're going to have player 4 start and player 2 start. So let's go in our Excel document to player 4 start. Player 4 start will be 25. So player 4 start, 25. Player 2 start, way up here, and that will be 22. We're going to verify those settings now in LED Blinky. Right over here. So we were at 24. All right. So 28 is the joystick. We are on that start. Okay, so those buttons are coming up correctly. Let me fix my mistake over here. So this should be 76 to match the other one. Again, this gets a little boring and repetitive, but it's all about details. This will be great later when you have to go make any changes. So player start for 1 is on 70, and player 3 start is on 67. So on the Excel document, we got 70 here. And then on player 3 start, 67. And let's, again, go through LED Blinky. So that's the last one in the spot. And those are working correctly. So at this point, we have all the LEDs controlled on the board, done. They're all ready to go. We'll hook up our Trackball USB. So it's black here, and then the blank one on there. And we're going to unplug the connection here, and we're going to verify that this does in fact track the correct way. Up, down, left, right. And that is tracking the correct way. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and hook this board or this cable back into here. And it's going to be running along here eventually. Now, also this is a blue cable, and all of our blue cables eventually will be going through this side of the board, because that's where its junction is going to be. Now, I didn't route this originally the direction I wanted it to go, so let me run it under here carefully as to not rip anything. There we go. And then that blue cable is going to eventually be coming out this side. All right. So now we're starting to look at our other LED connections. We got to see what else we got. So we want to do buttons first. Again, we've got everything here labeled. So let's do buttons next. And the next button we're going to do will be the pause button. So that brings us to some of these tan cables. Now the tan with the red, again referring back to my other thing, that is my stop button. So tan with the red is my stop. So I've got to find where my stop is set up, and it's going to be pin 64. Pin 64 is my stop button. So again, in Excel, I'm looking for my stop button in Excel. And again, that is 64. So then my next button is going to be my pause button. And that is on the yellow cable. Tan with yellow is my pause. And that's going to be 61. Now the big fun question is going to be if all this stuff works when I actually hook it to my stuff that's already wired in the control panel. That will be scary to plug those in and hope everything works. So that next button again is 61. That's over here. And just so I can make sure, since I accidentally erased in Excel, that is a brown control button. And over here, that's purple, actually. Purple. Purple. And then on the other side, I'm a little confused there. Purple and brown. Oh, because the other side, what it was intended to originally be was the other colors. That's fine. This is green, yellow, and orange, so I'm correct now. So purple and brown. Purple should be the stop, which is this wire. Yes, which is red. All right, just want to make sure I was still on track. So then the next wire I'm hooking up is going to be, let's see, on the yellow, on the white side. So tan cable with white tape is my right ground effect. Actually, no, let's hook up. Make sure we got the ones we have here already hooked up. We do. Making sure. So this is my tan with white is my right ground effect. So my right ground effect is going to be 58. 58 is my right ground effect. So 58 is there. And then this cable, tan with orange, should be my other ground effects. Tan with orange. And the solids, the solid colors, tan with orange, the solid is the left ground effect, and this one is the center. So left will be 55. Left will be 55. And the other one will be 52. So center is 52 and left is 55. So 55 and center is 52. Yep, just confirming to make sure. Now again, that top one is shared. You cannot reuse it. So I do look like I have one set of pins here left, but I can't use those. I can't use those because they're being used by the marquee. So now that I'm done with this section of tan cables, this accounts for all my tan cables. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this Velcro down as much as I can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, actually, nope, that should be fine. So those cables are sitting there, they're ready to go, they look pretty. I'm then going to look at my other side of my cables. And I'm going to look at the color coding first. So that's my marquee. Again, we're aware of that one. We have that out as far as it'll go. And now on the rest of this, so this wire here is my tan blue cable. And my tan, or my blue cable, I know that sounds funny. My blue cable with blue tape is for my coin slots. So I should have, oh, this isn't correct. Oh, blue with tan. My blue cable with tan tape is for my flipper LEDs. So blue with tan tape is flippers, and that will be 19. Again, that's 19. Now, again, I'm splicing the functionality for the flippers. So on my Excel, I have a left flipper and a right flipper. They're going to have the same color code. So that's going to again be 19. So I got 19 here. I got 19 here. So then I'm going to look at my next wire that I'm working with. And this wire is my blue cable with yellow. Blue cable with yellow. And the blue cable with yellow is my plunger. So my plunger is going to be light code number 16. So plunger in here. Plunger is 16. And then we look up here and we're again looking for, is there anything else we're forgetting? We have control cables. We have these. We have this. We have this. Just verifying that everything so far is plugged in. It looks like it is. So I've got 4 of the cables, and I know there's 2 more, and those 2 are very intensely LED type lights. Oh, this one's getting a little tangled up. I don't want that. So we're pulling that white one out. We're running it the path that all these other wires are going to go. And again, we're going to want them all to go around here, so they're nice and together. And again, still have freedom of movement for the joysticks. So now we got 2 more controls over here. These are strictly LEDs. So we have a blue on blue right here. And the blue cable on blue is for coin 1 and coin 3. So the solid colors are coin 1. And then coin 3 is the other one. So again, we're moving these cords slightly out of the way. These are the solid colors. So coin 1 is 13. Coin 3 is 10. That wire's trying to shift out of there. I can see my red wire is popped out just a little bit. So I gotta push that in there nice and snug. I don't want it to pop out and lose connectivity. It looks like it was in there sideways somehow. All right, now it's in there correctly. So then 10. So I've got 13 and 10. 13 is for player, is for coin 1. Coin 1 is 13. And let me verify that. Again, I want to make sure this is right the first time. So my 13, and then coin 3 is 10. Coin 3 is down here. And that is 10. Now the last cable should be my blue cable with orange tape. Cable, orange tape. And that is players 2 and players 4. So player 2 should be 7. Player 2 is 7. And player 4 is 4. So 7. Player 2 is 4. And player 4, coin 4, is 7. No, that's not up there. Coin 4 is 7. So one thing, like I said, that stinks when it's all moving around like that. So I need to track back where this wire is, because I typed over it. It looks like it's 25. So to confirm without hitting my joystick over and over again is, let's make sure, select port 25. That's, yes. This is 25. Over here is start 4. And going to 2B. Which one was 2B? I'm a little confused now. Just got screwed up a little bit. Oh. Okay. So this is 25. Because there is no actual start 4 option there. Start 3 is 67, which actually goes up here. That's why. Okay. That is rectified. And actually, let me save this document now where I'm at. So according to this, that should be everything. Let's see. Start for coin 4, which is a custom defined thing. 7. 2 is 4. 7. So let's go up here. Say 2 or 7. Hold on. So it's they're not going to light up because they are part of the coin buttons. So again, 4 should be 4. This should be 7. And then down here, this should be 4. And 25 is correct. Okay. So again, we're going to save this document. Supposedly, though, the wiring is now done, so I just need to do some wire management and plug up the couple of USB connections. This USB connection for the trackball, the USB connection for the servo motors, and the USB connection for the spinner. So otherwise, then I'm going to hem up all the wire management, make sure everything's nice and tight, plug it into my control panel, and it should be good to go. This is how you wire the board. As far as programming instructions, I've got videos on how to do that, how to configure LED Blinky, how to configure the ultimate I-PAC board, and so everything else is already done. The wiring component is just what I need to show you in this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Email mavericksarcade@gmail.com or comment below. Thanks again for watching. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like below. If you have any questions or comments, you may comment below or email mavericksarcade@gmail.com. Also, we are now streaming on Twitch, and this is our URL, so it's www.twitch.tv/mavericksarcade. Please check us out. We'll be playing some old classic PS1, PS2 games and other games that I just generally didn't play much, so I'm going to need your help. If these are games that you know, please jump online, make sure to tell me. And the way you can do that is either through the chat on Twitch, or we are now using Discord. So look on our main page, there's a URL for the Discord to join for that, and then you'll be able to join us in our live streams or when we're streaming on YouTube. That will allow us to share the chat on the screen and for you to communicate via voice over our show while we're recording. So please check it out. Looking forward to seeing you guys and actually getting to speak to you guys while we're doing our streams. Again, please consider subscribing, and thank you again for watching.